Now this is the reason why I believe that Islam is the only true religion. Now suppose we're already past the question as to whether God exists or not. Now if you still require proof as to whether God exists or not, then I'll make a separate video for it, inshallah. Now if God truly exists, then out of his mercy, he would want mankind to be guided and to worship him alone. Now if he created mankind to believe in him by default, i.e. you don't need logic or reasoning, then the question of free will not occur, which means we won't be having this conversation in the first place. And the entire meaning of life being a test wouldn't make sense. So logically, God would put us on earth and allow us to choose our faith. Now, having us choose our own faith without any proper guidance wouldn't be merciful of God. So he needs to send us something to prove that he exists. And this is what is known as scripture. Now, in order to prevent us from interpreting the scripture based on our whims and desires, God needs to send someone that will practice the scripture according to what was intended by God himself. And this person has to be, by definition, sinless and perfect in his practice of the scripture. And this is what we call a prophet. So now having scripture and a prophet protects us from interpreting the scripture according to our whims and desires, because now we have an example for us to follow on how to practice that scripture. Now on top of that, this scripture cannot be changed, because if it can be changed, then it wouldn't stand the test of time and it cannot serve its purpose as a guidance for mankind. So this scripture has to be preserved by the best means possible, and it has to have the chain of narration, preserving it from time to time, from age to age, from period to period, dating back to the Prophet himself. And the best method of preserving a scripture is through memory, by memorization, because anyone can change whatever that's written, but not everyone can change whatever that's memorized by millions of people. Now, if you look at all the scriptures in the world today, the only scripture that was memorized by millions of people, and the only scripture in which its chain of narration dates back to the time it was revealed, is the Quran. And the only person in which his life was documented and thousands of books are being written till today is the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the example that practiced the Quran, thus proving Islam to be the only true religion.